Hi everyone, I'm Riva, and this series is Silicon Valley Pregnancy. And today I'm going to be sharing with you one easy practice for a better birth. And it's really simple. It comes down to breathing and breathing techniques. In this video, I will go into some of the science and physiology behind why this is in fact your best tool in your toolkit for having a better birthing experience. Now, I started to dig into all of this because I was becoming a bit fearful about the experience of having to give birth in some months coming, and I started to build up some anxiety and fears. And what I try to do when I come across some fears and come up against that discomfort is I try to become as informed as I can be about a process, about an event, about whatever it is I'm being fearful of. And I try to empower myself with knowledge to give myself mental clarity so that when I walk into an experience, I have at least everything available to me that I could look up and study and understand to give my mind and myself a bit of peace and a little bit of logic to try to hold on to. Intuition is very powerful, but we do have the human tendency of wanting to understand things and wanting to know. And I think the two go very well together. So it's about how we use our intuition wisely, but also let our mind be informed and help our minds feel comfortable with whatever things we might be coming across, especially in a pregnancy journey. So you could imagine I started to do lots of digging. I started digging down through all of the different YouTube videos out there on better birthing experiences, how to manage pain, how to make things safe for mom and baby. And I tried to understand, how can I give my baby the best support, the best, safest means of delivery, and to give myself a bit of calm and peace and sanity in the process of this very uncertain time, this very unique experience that if you're a first-time mom, you have no idea what you're going into. And it can be something that's fearful for anyone, whether they've had one or multiple babies. So I started digging into the coursework, the classes, and what I found from everything from Lamaze to hypnobirthing to a number of other more physiology-based courses, it all comes down to breathing. Now, when I first started digging on YouTube, I just found a number of breathing practices and techniques and people suggesting breathing. And I'm sitting here wondering, are they holding the good information behind like a paywall or something, where if you really want to know the truth, like techniques and other things and the goodies for how to have a better birthing experience, you just have to buy the package or the course? Well, I bought some packages, I bought some courses, and it turns out that breathing is actually what's behind the paywall as well. So if you talk with your doula, if you talk with your midwives, whoever it is you're talking with, or you go through a course on hypnobirthing or any of these different practices, while I'm totally supportive of people, investigating the actual courses themselves, I'm here today just to let you know that a basis of pretty much every course comes down to breathing. Different breathing techniques, different cadences of breathing, different styles of breathing, but nonetheless, it's all breathing. And you can imagine, to my surprise, being a breathwork instructor, that the secret sauce to having a better birth is actually all involved with breathing and the way you breathe, all of these different things that I often am teaching people right now. So it was kind of a fun, interesting thing to come across once I realized the commonality amongst every course I could find was that breathing was the essence of it. And quite perplexed initially, because I was like, really? That's it? And that's, again, for anybody, whether you're going in for a natural birth experience or you're getting an epidural and you're getting some kind of medication. It all comes down to how you are breathing. I do not want to discount that there's a number of other things that will benefit you to having a better labor and delivery process. And that does involve the physiology, preparing the physical body for that process of birth. And one of the reasons I've been calling this Silicon Valley pregnancy is I'm going to be sharing some really awesome resources with you guys for people I've come across and centers I've come across, different people who are awesome in supporting a pregnancy. And if you happen to be in the Silicon Valley, I want you guys to know about these amazing people. So maybe if you feel drawn to them or you're looking for that type of support, you'll get to go find them and maybe meet them yourself and work with them. But I want to make all of these different resources more well known and more shared with people and make this information readily available to you. So, because it's a very complex process, there's a lot to figure out just to keep the baby safe and you safe, and to know who is out there to support you. That's a whole overwhelming lot of research and discovery that you kind of have to go through. So I'm going to make it a little easier for a lot of you guys. But let's get back to breathing. The whole process of giving birth is reliant on how you are breathing. At least if you'd like to have a better experience, there are better breathing practices. If you go into it maybe unprepared, you may fall into the side of breath that will actually be more detrimental, cause your labor to take longer, and to have a greater physical discomfort in the process. Whether, again, that be with medication or without medication. And the thing is, when you go into something as challenging as childbirth, it is something you want to be prepared for as best as you can. There's no judgment and there's no reason you have to buy every course out there, but it's about preparing the mind and the body. The breath does a bit of both. The breath work and breathing techniques really target not just the physiology, although that's a very big aspect of it, it also targets the mind and how you mentally cope with labor. Because my understanding is, through all of the research I've done, it is so much more of a mental game than it is about being an incredibly painful, excruciating experience, as many people have described it. And I do not discount that that is the experience for many people. But there is something to be said about having a healthier mindset going into the process, being more informed, and allowing that to inform your physiology. What do I mean by that? I mean, all of the breath work, all of the preparation has to do with how you are setting your nervous system. Your nervous system, it has, if you ever go to my workshops or my classes, you've heard me say this a million times, but you have the sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze response. Then you have the parasympathetic rest and digest response. And when your body and your physiology has committed to the fight, flight, or freeze, there are certain hormones, there's certain molecules released, there's certain cascades of events that happen in the physical body that prepare the body to run, to get away from something. While the parasympathetic side is very much supportive of relaxation, healthy digestion, rest, calm, reducing pain and inflammation. And it's so important to be able to balance these two during such a critical experience as labor and delivery. So with breathing, there are so many different styles, and there are some styles that are supportive of your parasympathetic nervous system being activated through the vagus nerve. And that is the key to every breathing technique I have found in every course that I have come across. It's entirely geared to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And when I talk about the mental preparation and preparing the nervous system, it has to do with how are you mentally preparing yourself to go into the birth process. Are you ramping up your fight, flight, or freeze side of the nervous system? Or are you ramping up your parasympathetic rest and digest side of the nervous system? And I'll do other videos on more specifics of the physiology, but there's so much about the parasympathetic side that is conducive to a happier, healthier, less painful, more manageable labor and delivery. And so when you do breathing practices that are very well known to support and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, you then allow the physiology to cascade the appropriate hormones, to allow innervation of the proper organ systems, to give your uterus the best opportunity to have the most optimal function it can have, which is what you really want it to have when you're going through the process of a happy, healthy labor and delivery. And so when you go about these breathing practices, there's a combination effect. Some of it is trying to keep you in that parasympathetic side of the nervous system. And some of it is actually purely to keep your mind focused on something else besides panicking or worrying or getting lost in that fight, flight, or freeze response. The fight, flight, or freeze side of the nervous system during birthing experiences will trigger more pain, more stress on the mom and the baby, and it will take away from the effect of a solid uterine function. So if you want to have the most effective, meaningful contractions, you're going to go through contractions one way or another. But if you want those contractions to accomplish more, you want to be in that parasympathetic side of the nervous system. If you want to have less pain and to cope with the discomforts of labor more readily, that will involve you needing to stay in the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. It doesn't surprise me now when I see and understand the different birthing experiences that I have been told or have been hearing about from different people and different sources, why in some instances, and this is not judgment, and there's obviously no way to know how your unique experience is going to go, but you can, if you really start to study these different practices and these different programs, they're so much focused on activating our parasympathetic nervous system, because when people have had experiences of before taking a course and then having another experience of birth after being more informed, they can all attest to the fact that, at least the ones I've heard, that when they didn't know what was happening, they were more inclined to fall into fight, flight, or freeze. Their bodies became more tense. Their bodies became more of that fight or flight and less of the effective full uterine contractions, and they were left with more pain and discomfort than they were effective movement of the body. And that caused their labors potentially to be longer, to be more difficult and challenging. And there's all sorts of reasons and explanations for this, but at its simplest form, it's that, do you fall into fight or flight, or do you fall into parasympathetic rest and digest? And the breathing practices are helping people to count through the contractions, and that keeps the mind busy. And the actual act of engaging the diaphragmatic breathing, which is the belly breathing, full body breathing, we'll get into some of that in another video. But when the body appropriately is breathing and doing what is conducive to the parasympathetic activation, then what we get is a cascade of hormones, a cascade of molecules that helps the body to relax and to behave in a more meaningful manner that is conducive to a safer, more effective laboring process. So that is the reason that breathing is actually your best tool in your toolkit. And we'll go into some techniques in the future. We'll go into lots more of the physiology, and for sure, we're going to talk more about the nervous system, but I'll leave it at that for now. And I hope you guys found that somewhat interesting and are at least more invested in this practice for preparing for your own birth. Or perhaps you'll share this with someone who might be having their baby in the near future. But one final thing I just want to share is it's something important to practice. You do not want to wait until the last 2 days before you're due and then start to, although if you are, please practice then too. Practice these breathing techniques, practice preparing your body well in advance. You can never start too early, but practice these things so they're inherently a part of you. This tool exists within you, as part of you, is one with you, so that when you're in a stressful state, your body more naturally will be inclined to fall into the healthier, more effective breathing patterns. I'll leave it at that for now. Bye-bye.